Hey there everyone, welcome back to another video. Kovac here, and for this one I will actually be doing something a little bit different. I will be going over all of the shop pets that you can acquire, as well as an overview of the best ones that I highly recommend to get if you are not sure as to which ones to get, as well as the ones that are not so good but you could still purchase them if you would like. Christmas time is approaching, and about a week or so prior and maybe a week or two after Christmas, the pets will go on sale. So basically cut right in half from $10 to $5, except if it's a pet that is newly released, which we will get into that momentarily. But without further ado, let's go ahead and hop right into it. Starting out with the Alteric Brew Pup. A pretty good pet, I would say. Not the best in the world, but it is definitely a personal favorite by many, including myself. It is a beast type, obviously. It is the power speed breed. Abilities I would recommend using for it is bite. The middle slot's pretty situational. The good stuff only heals your backline pets, and it's a pretty good amount as well. And then there's tough and cuddly, which is a pretty good defensive ability. As for the last slot, it's pretty situational as well. You could either go with Call to Pack or Avalanche, although most people will go with Call to Pack. A fun fact, Alteric Brew Pup, I believe, was one of the first pets with a big AoE damaging ability when pet battles were first a thing, as well as one of the first pets with Avalanche, which made it a very good pet back then before it got nerfed a little bit. With AoE anyway. But overall, Alteric Brew Pup is a pretty decent pet and highly recommend picking it up if you're interested. Next up we have Argy, who is also a beast type. He has the HS breed, so not very much health, but he has decent speed. He has Gnaw, Horn Gore. Out of these two, it's pretty situational. Gnaw is not very useful if you are not quicker, so Horngore might be the better option to go with. He has a unique ability only to him called Gifted Naru, surprise surprise, with the turn eye, but it heals for quite a bit, so more than say Healing Touch or Healing Wave, I should say, not Touch. But I believe it heals for more than that. Then he has Chew, Stampede, Headbutt. Here I would definitely go with Headbutt, as it's probably a lot better than Stampede. Overall, Argy, not a very good pet, but he is pretty cool looking, so I guess he gets cool points for that. Next up we have Blossoming Ancient, probably the best pet that you can get off the shop, as it is one of the most hated ones as well. He, no surprise with the whole sunlight thing. Most people will go with Iron Bark, Photosynthesis, and Sunlight, but for me, I like to use the not as good build, but it's a pretty fun build, is Poison Branch, Autumn Breeze, and Stun Seed. But most people will run this. Fair warning, if you love to play with this pet a lot, expect to get hated for it, because most people will probably spit in your face at the sight of this, because most people don't like it, myself included. So whenever I play it, I will usually go for this build because it's not as cancerous. So Blossoming Ancient, definitely, well, I wouldn't say recommend buying it because people are going to hate it, but it is definitely probably the best pet that you can get on the shop. Next up we have Bright Paw, probably maybe the only magic type that's in the shop. I could be wrong. Nope, we do have one more in the form of Shadow, but anyway, Bright Paw is actually a pretty decent pet, surprisingly enough. Another popular pick that you will see a lot, especially during Critter Week. It is a speed balance breed. It can do quite a bit of damage with Prowl into an Arcane Dash. However, most people will know your build pretty much with a Bright Paw, as it is a pretty popular pet, as I said. So usually 9 times out of 10 they will try to avoid it. So like I said, Prowl, Arcane Dash, probably two abilities you want to go with, and the first slide's pretty situational. You could go with Bite or Arcane Blast. Both are pretty good, so overall Bright Paw, a pretty decent pet, like I said. Definitely recommend getting it if you're interested. Next up we have Captain Crackers, who has the standard SS breed. Now, Captain Crackers is, I guess you would say, okay in the fact that he's an SS breed with Flurry, so that gives him somewhat of an edge. Now, his middle slot is kind of weird. He has Flyby and Coin Toss. Flyby absolutely sucks, don't recommend taking it. And then there's Coin Toss, which both helps you and in a way helps your opponent because it'll allow you to do 50% more damage, but your opponent's pet will deal 25% extra damage. So it's kind of a win-lose situation because you're also helping your opponent, but it's way better than Flyby for sure. And then Warning Swak and Feathered Frenzy, both pretty decent abilities, but I would personally go with Feathered Frenzy as it deals pretty good damage as well as the damage boost for a turn. So overall, Captain Cracker's not the best pet in the world, but okay in a sense, I suppose. He's a pretty cool parrot though. He's a little pirate parrot, so pick him up if you are interested. And next up we have the Sonoran Hatchling. All in all, just not a good pet overall. I don't recommend buying this pet, but obviously I bought it because I collect pets, so yeah, don't be ashamed if you don't want to buy this pet because it's not good. Not at all. Its breed, balance, it's just a mess overall. Its ability is not very good. I guess you would take Quills, Rush, and I guess Liftoff, but like I said, not a very good pet. Probably one of the worst pets that are in the shop overall. Next up is the Cinder Kitten. Now, in my one video about the top 3 worst family types for each, well, top 3 worst pets for each family type, I did mention the Cinder Kitten because it's not very good. A lot of people do like this pet though because it's a pretty cool looking fire cat, so it usually gets a lot of people, but the build I would pretty much go with, I mean, you can pretty much run anything and it will do okay, but like I said, not the best pet in the world, but a lot of people like it, mostly for its looks, I would say. So Cinder Kitten, yeah, not very good. Next up, we have the newest pet to the shop in the form of Dottie, who is also the only alpaca pet model that we have so far. So it's a pretty beautiful looking pet, I would say. It's a cute little baby alpaca. And yes, it is the newest pet, as I said. And it is the only pet that probably will not go on sale for $5 whenever, you know, Christmas time starts getting nearer. As usually, they don't cut that price in half for newer pets until next Christmas. So Dottie more than likely will stay $10. However, 100% of the purchases from now until whenever it stops will go to a very good foundation. So all the more reason to get the pet. It is pretty much the breed of Twilight, which is another shop pet that we will get to in a moment, except the attack and speed are swapped. So as far as viability goes, Dottie is not very good, but it definitely gets to cute points, I would say. Abilities I would go with personally would be Face Bite, Headbutt, and Bleat. Kick's okay, paired with Face Bite. Chew can situationally be good, and then Cute Face is a pretty crappy ability, I would say. So like I said, overall Dottie not very good, but a pretty cool pet, I would say. Next up, we have the Guardian Cub. Now, a couple fun facts for this pet. First of all, it is no longer available in the shop. This is the only pet that you could purchase way back when it was first released from the shop. You could also trade as well as put on the auction house, which is why this pet goes for a crap ton on the auction house. But thankfully, I got mine for absolutely free from a very good friend of mine. I greatly appreciate it because he saved me a crap ton of gold. But it's a pretty cool pet too. But like I said, it's no longer available, unfortunately. They probably removed it because of it being able to be put on the auction house, so I can kind of see why they removed it. So yeah, it has the balance breed, it's flying type. Abilities I would definitely go with is Onyx Bite because Slicing Wind sucks a bunch. Roar is really bad too, so Wild Wind is definitely the better option. And then its last tier is kind of situational. Cyclone, mainly if you're playing a clone dance team. But you totally could take Reckless Strike. I just recommend using it as a cleanup ability mainly. If they have like very little health, because it does have a drawback of you taking 25% more damage for a turn. So overall, Guardian Cub, not a half bad pet, but pretty cool in the fact that it was once been able to put on the auction house after buying it from the shop, and again, no longer available. So unless of course you find it on the auction house, but be prepared to be run out of your pockets if you want that pet. Next up we have little KT. There is another pet that is just like it. So if you do not want to buy this pet, then you could definitely go buy that other pet. I just think that the breed is a little bit different as far as their stats go. I could be wrong. I want to say that little KT might be the better one to go with actually. I want to say I think little KT is the only undead. Yeah, it is the only undead that is on the shop. So at least it has that going for it. It has high health, high attack power, and low speed, but no surprise there because most undeads do have slow speed. Abilities I would go with is probably Shadow Slash, unless if you pair Howling Blast with Frost Nova. Middle slot is situational. I probably would go with Death and Decay, and then Curse of Doom is a pretty good ability on its own as well. Overall, pretty decent pet. It has pretty great abilities and a really good breed, I would say. So I definitely pick it up if you are interested. Next up is little Ragnaros. The first pet to ever have a trap is what I was trying to say. I think, unless of course the Curious Wolvar pup was released first, but I want to say little Ragnaros was released. Those two were definitely the only pets that had a trap for a long while. But yeah, little Ragnaros definitely one of the better pets that you can get from the shop. It has the highest attack power of any pet in the game. Abilities I would go with is probably Sulfur Smash. Even on the low end, it hits for a crap ton for a basic attack. Even against critters, when doing weak damage, it hits for a crap ton too. Magma Wave, if you would like to set off your Magma Trap, one turn or however many turns earlier, quicker. And then Conflagrate, only take that if you're pairing it with Flamethrower, obviously. He obviously is the hardest hitting Conflagrate user, doing, let's see, that's like over 700 damage from the looks of it. And then most people will run Son of the Flame though, which is a pretty good ability too. Most people will run Sulfur Smash, Magma Trap, and Son of the Flame. They'll usually throw a Magma Trap and then go under with Son of the Flame, and then wait for the trap to go off, as well as dealing quite a bit of damage with Son of the Flame. Little Ragnaros is pretty versatile, so you can pretty much run any ability you want and do pretty well with it. It's just his only drawback is his very low speed at 211. Overall, little Ragnaros, like I said, one of the best pets you can get off the shop, so I would totally wait until the prices are cut in half and then pick them up if you haven't already. Next up we have little XT, which I want to say is probably, yep, he is the only mechanical in the shop. There is another pet just like him, similar to little KT, but I'm not too sure which one has more health or whatever. I usually prefer the one with more health, but yeah, if you don't want to get this from the shop, you can totally get that other pet. So, like I said, he is a mechanical. He has pretty decent health, a lot of attack power, and low speed. The abilities I would go with would be Zap, Heartbroken, and Typanic Tantrum. These two abilities paired together do quite a bit of damage if you can get your opponent to hit you, or a dot, or whatever, even a fart. As long as they deal damage to you while you have Heartbroken up, you will do 100% extra damage for 2 turns. If they continue to hit you, it will just refresh the buff, and you'll just do a crap ton of damage, especially paired up with a pretty great AoE in the form of Typanic Tantrum. However, similar to Brightpaw? For some reason the name escaped me. Yeah, similar to Brightpaw, most people will see what you're going to do and probably just swap out or swap you out. So most people will see what's coming. But yeah, that's the build that I would go with. Heartbroken, Typanic Tantrum, and Zap, because he's not very fast to take advantage of Thrash. I have seen some people take the Bomb, which is a pretty cool ability, but Typanic Tantrum's definitely the way to go. Overall, pretty great pet. and definitely recommend picking them up if you are interested. And next up we have Mischief, a little fell kitten, obviously released back in frickin' Legion. Mischief was one of the first pets, I think, maybe even the first pet with Foreboding Curse, which is a pretty great ability overall, as it's similar to a Black Claw, except it has the added bonus of decreasing your opponent's speed by 25% for 4 rounds, which is really great because you'll hear it from me a lot that speed is probably the most important stats as far as pet battle goes. So the build that I would go with Mischief is probably Pounce to take advantage of that Foreboding Curse when you throw it up. You can really go with either Crouch or Fell Immolate, whichever one you want to, and then obviously take Foreboding Curse. Chaos Nova is not very good. So overall, Mischief, not a half bad pet, but there are definitely better ones out there. So pick it up if you are interested. Next up we have the Moonkin hatchlings. Now you will notice that there are 2 variants. That is because there is a Horde variant and an Alliance variant. So if I were to play with this pet right now, I would only be able to use this one because obviously I am an Alliance character. So a little thing right there. You will also have to level them separately if you are interested in leveling them both to level 25. So also keep that in mind. Now the Moonkin hatchling is pretty unique that it has pretty decent abilities. Its first slot, not very good. Usually you will go with Punch because Solar Beam. I don't know why it has this ability. That's kind of weird. Entangling Roots or Clobber, probably would go with Entangling Roots. And then if you're playing it with a fun clone dance team using the Moonkin hatchling, then take Cyclone. But generally you will go with Moonfire. It is a balanced breed, probably one of the worst breeds. It's too bad it ain't an SS. That would probably make him a lot better. But Moonkin hatchling overall, not the worst pet in the world. He is pretty cool. I like him. He's a cute little Moonkin. So if you're interested in picking him up, I highly recommend it. Alright, next up we have the Pandaren Monk. One of the, I want to say, one of the first shop pets there were. And WoW, if I'm not mistaken. He has a pretty unique build, I think, to him, where he could take Fury of 1,000 Fist, which has the added benefit of 100% chance to stun for 1 round if the target is blinding. Usually you will pair this pet on a Darkness team, and then he also has Blackout Kick on that tier. Usually, most people will go with Fury of 1,000 Fist. Middle slot, Staggered Steps, which is basically a Tough and Cuddly. Focus Chi, which just increases your damage by 100% for 1 round. Most people will try to avoid that though, so be careful of that. Probably want to go with Staggered Steps. And then you could go with Takedown, only if you're able to get a stun on them. That way you can get a double damage, or you could just stick with the normal basic attack in the form of Jab. Overall, he's a pretty cool pet. However, most people will see what you're trying to do. If you go for Focus Chi, they can just swap out, stun you, whatever they want. So yeah, he has the potential to do quite a bit of damage, but like I said, most people again will see what's coming. But if you're interested in picking him up, then go right on ahead. Next up we have Shadow, who is I think the 2nd magic type that we have in the shop. Shadow is actually a pretty great pet. It's a darkness pet that can also use light, dealing double damage, so it's able to throw up its own blind. Or you could take Flash as well, that also blinds him, but they could always just swap out, so Call Darkness might be the better option there. Up here, definitely take Shadow Shock, just like the Moonkin hatchling. I don't know why Shadow has Solar Beam. It doesn't fit well with it at all. I mean, unless if you run it on a Sunlight team, but why would you do that? It's kind of weird. But Shadow Shock definitely the better option. Void Portal is really stupid in the fact that it deals damage to you just for you to swap out. And a little fun fact, if you had Shatter Defenses up, or anything like a Black Claw, the damage actually will stack with that. So keep that in mind. I found that out the hard way with a particular pet. I won't say who, but most will remember. So light is definitely the better option there. Probably take darkness. Overall, Shadow is actually a pretty great pet. Definitely recommend picking up this pet if you are interested. Next up we have Soul of the Aspects, which I think is the only Dragonkin, if I'm not mistaken, on the shop. Yes, he is. He's only really good, I think, if he's on a Darkness team. Because of his Surge of Light, he just has no way of freaking, having that 100% chance to stun. However, I mean, there is a 25% chance right there. You could also put him on the Sunlight team, as he does have Sunlight and Solar Beam. So it's not as weird for him having Solar Beam like the other pets, since he does have Sunlight. But most people will run Surge of Light, Deflection, and one of these two abilities. Both are justifiable. It's just your own personal preference. So overall, so the aspects, I want to say he's okay, I guess. Not the best pet, but he is pretty cool. So if you're interested, definitely recommend picking him up. Next up, we have Twilight, which is definitely one of the top 5 best pets on the shop. You see this pet quite a bit. It's probably one of the better performing pets in PvP. It was the first pet to ultimately have this awesome ability, Twilight Fire. A lot of people will know that other pets such as Twilight Whelpling and Twilight Clutch Sister also have this ability. So I guess that's where Blizzard kind of got the idea to give that to them as well. With Twilight, like I said, just like Dottie, except the attack and speed are swapped, so he actually has extra speed. Extra speed can come in handy. I do see some Twilights running Pounce, but Twilight Fire is just too good of an ability to pass up. I mean, it just does so much damage for what it does. I've also seen some Twilights run Spore Shrooms. I don't know why, because it's not very good, and it's pretty easy to avoid as well. So yeah, there's that. There's Drain Power as well, but again, not a very good ability compared to Call Darkness. Not only that, but since Twilight can throw up its own Call Darkness, you have a 100% chance to stun with Surge of Light, assuming that you don't miss. Fun fact for you, whenever I use Twilight, for some reason my Twilight loves to miss its Surge of Light under Darkness. Don't know why, but that's just a tedious thing that happens a lot, and I don't know why. It's really weird. It's really weird. I wish he wouldn't miss as much, but if you can get it to land, it has a 100% chance to stun as long as you have Darkness up. So overall, Twilight is a really good pet, tier 1 pet, as a matter of fact. Highly recommend picking this pet up if you are interested. Alright, lastly we have Whomper. And I say lastly because these two pets are unavailable. I'll get to them in just a moment, but Whomper. He's another tier 1 pet, I would say. He's actually really good. He is able to throw up his own chill effect in the form of Flash Freeze, which is a really good ability. Short 3-round cooldown, does quite a bit of damage, chills the target, as well as reducing their speed by 25% for 5 rounds. Frost Shock doesn't even reduce the speed that much as far as duration goes, so that ought to tell you something right there. Not only that, but you can pair that up with Deep Freeze. So if your opponent decides to stay in with Flash Freeze on them, Deep Freeze will have a 100% chance to stun them, as well as do quite a bit of damage itself. And Whomper has decent speed in the form of 289. He is an HS breed after all. So for the first slot, Snowball or Punch, probably want to go for Punch. That way you have that damage diversity, as well as the Dragonkin meta that's going on right now. So Punch will definitely come in handy versus those pesky Twilight Clutch Sisters. Overall, like I said, Whomper, definitely a tier 1 pet in my book. I absolutely love this pet. I was really anxious to buy this pet as soon as I could. I actually got it on my birthday some time ago, so that made it even more special. So if you are interested in getting Whomper, highly recommend it. Very good pet indeed. And so lastly, we do have the Griffin Hatchling and Wind Rider Cub. Like I said, these pets were also removed from the shop, along with the Guardian Cub. Not sure why, but it's not like we need to miss them anyway because they're both not very good at all. They're probably two of the worst pets on the shop that you can get anyway, so I guess Blizzard kind of did us a favor in removing them. That way we didn't have to spend our money and give even more money to them. So, Griffin Hatchling, if you do have this pet, I guess the abilities to go with would be Peck, Adrenaline Rush, and Liftoff. But again, it's not very good, like I said. And then the Wind Rider Cub, pretty cool model. It's the only, God, what are they called again? Wyverns? Yeah, that's how you pronounce the word. It's a little baby wyvern. It's got a pretty cool model. It's the only model that's like this. I guess the abilities you'd go with, again, would be Bite, Adrenaline Rush, and Liftoff, kind of similar to Griffin Hatchling. But, like I said, it's not very good, so it doesn't really hurt my feelings that Blizzard removed it. It's really, I'm not really sure why they removed these pets, to be honest with you, but it's whatever. I mean, I can understand the Guardian Cub with people taking advantage of that and getting quite a bit of gold off the auction house. So, yeah, that is basic overview of all the pets from the shop. Like I said, about a week or so prior to Christmas and maybe a week or so after, these pets will go on sale. All of them will be $5 except Dottie, I think. It's not 100% that Dottie will be $10, but like I said, most of the time whenever a new pet comes out in the shop, they will remain at $10 until the next Christmas, and then usually another pet will come out and then rinse and repeat. Then that pet will stay $10 until the next Christmas. So yeah, overall only a handful of these pets are pretty much tier 1 or tier 2 in the form of the Alteric Brew Pup. I have most of them, as you can see, as like I said, I collect these pets, so yeah, definitely a very good month to get pets off the shop if you are interested and your card is ready to spend all that much, but I'll leave that up to you to decide. So with that being said, this is Kofak, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace out.